This episode of Platemark is brought to you by SGCI. Hey, Platemark listeners. I'm joined today by SGCI Executive Director Blake Sanders. Now, Blake, I need you to tell everybody about SGCI and why membership in this incredible organization is so important. But before you get to that part, tell them about the conference in 2011.
I've been a member of SGCI since 2005. By 2011, my wife and I got married as an official conference event in the exhibition space. John Hancock officiated. Hannah learned to sew so she could screen print all over her dress. If you join today, you always have access to our members directory. We're up to 3,600 printmakers and print enthusiasts from around the world. You'll have access to all of our virtual events that we're rolling out, the symposia, the international portfolio exchanges and excursions.
So what happens if you become a member and suddenly you find yourself planning a trip?
If you join SGCI, everywhere you go, you'll have somebody to say, hey, do you want to play while I'm in town?
Printmakers are the best. They're my favorite people. It's the happiest corner of the art world, as I've said many a time on a pod.
Printmakers are as close to a chosen family as I get. So yeah, I think you're the right people to hang around with. If you're a printmaker, you want to be with us.
Thank you, Blake. I can't say strongly enough how important it is for young artists to get involved. It will broaden your horizons in a remarkable way, and you will meet the most amazing people. So head over to sgcinternational.org and check that I Want to Join box and check out all of their programming that comes throughout the year. And also stay tuned for announcements about the upcoming conference in Pittsburgh in October of 2027.
If folks want more information about SGCI, go to sgcinternational.org. Thanks so much.
Again, that's sgcinternational.org. This is Platemark, a deep dive into the world of prints and the people who make the ecosystem tick. I'm your host, Ann Shafer. As an independent curator and fair organizer, I'm on a mission to demystify printmaking and expose the heart of this collaborative community. From the technical challenges to the creative breakthroughs, we're taking you behind the scenes of the art world's most charming corner. Platemark, bettering the world one print at a time. Today, we're heading just north of Baltimore, where I live, to Moncton, Maryland, to visit the studio of Val Lucas. Val is the artist and master printer behind Bowerbox Press, and she is a true maker in every sense of the word. While many printers are moving toward digital workflows, Val is going deeper into the roots of the craft, literally casting her own metal type and ornaments. In this conversation, we talk about her transition from painting to the heavy metal world of letterpress at MICA, the resurgence of the craft led by a new generation of women, and the meditative patience required to build an artist's book character by character. Whether you're a technical geek for handset type or just love the feel of a deep impression on a page, this one's for you. As you know, images are over on the website at platemarkpodcast.com in the show notes. Over there, you could also hit the support and donate button and help me keep the lights on. All right, let's get into it. Val, it's great to see you. Thank you for coming on Platemark today.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. You and I know each other from being in Baltimore, and I met you when you were still a student at MICA back in the middle of the aughts, as it were.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have watched you grow and become your own business person since then, and it's been lovely to watch. So can you introduce yourself, everybody?
Yeah, my name is Val Lucas. I am currently just north of Baltimore up in Moncton. I run Bowerbox Press, which is my own little printing, bookbinding, design company. And I learned that at MICA. I graduated in 2005, and I've been doing printing ever since. And I've kind of gotten into little deep rabbit holes and side quests and learned a whole bunch of stuff since I got out of school. And I really hope I never stop learning.
I don't think you will from watching your Instagram feed. So I always love to give everybody up front a 101 on some specific technical piece of what you do or whoever it is. And can you just walk us through letterpress and go?
Yeah, so letterpress is relief printing. It goes back to the 1450s with Gutenberg, not really inventing a printing press, but kind of finagling and finessing a bunch of things. So he developed hand mold to create movable type that was used on a wooden screw press that led to the explosion of book printing and publishing. And I still use that traditional handset metal type. So every character of every word is on its own piece. You put them all together in a big form. You lock that up, you ink it, you put it in a big printing press, and you can create multiples of text really easily. So traditional letterpress uses the handset type and some form of pressure either applied by a platen press or a cylinder press.
Yeah. So when you talk about quote unquote movable, it means that each letter is individual so that it is movable, basically. So you're not setting a whole page.
Yeah, so the individual type versus something like a linotype machine, which cast literally a line of type in one piece. This is the earlier form where every letter was cast one at a time. So you'd have a box with 60 E's, a box with 30 A's, etc., and then you would put them together one by one. And the great thing about that is after you've printed that first book, you can take those letters apart and reuse them for your next book.
With linotype, would they melt that stuff down and reuse it?
Exactly. So for a newspaper, they would melt it down at the end of the day. And then the next morning, the operators would come in and set the next day's slugs, cast them, print them, melt them down kind of indefinitely.
It's hard to imagine there being some smelting machine in the basement of the newspaper offices, like it's like this weird intellectual writing piece. And then downstairs are all the artisans with all of the machinery it's fascinating to me. It's so cool.
Yeah, there would have been banks of them. I think at the New York Times, they have 60 or 70 linotype machines.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't think they would have considered themselves artisans. They were just doing their job, sitting there typing out things on this machine all day. I don't think they would have really considered themselves creative at all, which is a big difference from how people are practicing letterpress today.
Yeah, so the transition is all because of lithography and digital, right?
Yeah, so the offset digital started coming in. It wasn't as cost effective to run letterpress anymore. So a lot of shops started switching over. All the letterpress stuff got shoved in the back. And then I think probably in the 80s, 90s, artists started finding this stuff and saying, oh, wow, this is cool. I can print my own books. So you get people like Joanna Drucker printing books with letterpress, other artists picking it up. And then I think in the late 90s, early 2000s are when the younger women mostly started finding these machines and realizing they could print really beautiful wedding invitations. And we do have to thank Martha Stewart for popularizing that fad,
is that
the really
right?
deeply embossed.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so the really deeply embossed wedding invitations that a lot of people think of when they hear letterpress now, really pressed into that thick cottony paper, that kind of revamped the industry. And you can't get that impression with offset or digital. You can only get that with the relief process. So that started becoming like a mark of luxury. And that, I think, is the only reason that any of this stuff was eventually saved. The artists picking it up and the kind of more high-end commercial stationers picking this up for the more pricey products printing. And the people who didn't adopt that, their shops closed. They didn't keep up with that. They either split off into digital or they just went out of business.
The emboss that you get or you can get, you don't have to get, right? Mm-hmm. My understanding always is that was not sought after and a mark of bad printing for the majority of the time that letterpress has been used until probably the 90s with Martha. That's so hilarious.
Yeah, so you think about the process itself. You're printing from metal type, which is made from a lead alloy, so it's pretty soft. Traditionally, the books were printed on dampened paper, so it's a soft surface. You get a little bit of impression in early books, but then as we get better papers, better metal alloys, the idea is to get the best, crispest print without much impression. So you don't really want to see the impression on the back of the page when you're reading a book. It's a little distracting. So good printing in the commercial era of book publishing was very flat impression. You didn't want to feel it in the paper, but you wanted to have that good print. And then as we developed new techniques like plastic plates, even the etched metal plates, that's what allowed you to get that super deep impression on the soft papers. So you're not using the lead type anymore.
Oh.
You're using a plate to make that really deep impression. And then more thick papers were developed, like Crane's Lettra, and people could really smash that in there and say, like, wow, look at this super thick paper. This is luxury right here. So the process has changed a little bit.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The bad printing is turned luxurious.
Yeah, and that's something I teach my students. So when we're hand setting type, I keep an eye on them to make sure they're not getting a deep impression, because I'm trying to teach them to get just enough impression. They get a good print, but not so much that it goes into the paper very deeply. And if they do want to do that more deeply embossed kind of luxury look, I'll teach them how to make plates and run it that way.
All right, so tell it, how do you make a plate?
It's really easy right now, actually. You can take any digital file. So I can set up something in Illustrator. I can have a beautiful connecting script face. I can have a line illustration. I just send that file to my plate manufacturer. They send me a plate back in the mail. It's like a big plastic sticker with raised areas. And there's a system that I use called boxcar base, which is a big aluminum base that's a certain height. The plate goes on top with that stickiness. It just sticks on there. And the base raises that plate up to the perfect printing height, which is 0.918 inches. So everything has to be at that perfect type high to print. So the combination of the base and the plate is 0.918 inches. It prints beautifully. I literally just send them a file. They send me a plate and I can print your gorgeous wedding invitations.
Huh. That's amazing. Like, I mean, you have to stick the thing on straight. And does it matter if there's like bubbles? Like, there is a process.
There is a process. The base that I have has a grid on it, which is really nice.
Helpful.
So it aligns nice and square. You do have to lay it on so it doesn't get bubbles in it, but they've made it pretty foolproof.
Wow.
And that's another reason that I think a lot of small letterpress businesses have been able to survive, because you don't need the room full of type cabinets and all the other stuff. You can literally just have a press with a base and you're ready to go.
Knowing you, as I do, which isn't really well, but I know you enough to know, it surprises me that you're not making your own plates.
I did at school. We had a plate maker at MICA. I honestly don't use a lot of plates anymore because I'm getting more interested in making my own type, for instance. But I don't do enough volume of commercial work like that it's worth it for me to purchase a plate maker. And they're a little annoying to process by hand. But in my typecasting process, I do make polymer plates that become part of the process for making a new type design. So they're a little easier to process by hand. So I do some of that by hand as well.
Okay. Next.
This is for further on in the story.
Next topic. The making of your own type. So you're making the little squares with the letters on them, right?
Yes.
Start at the beginning.
Well, I learned printing in 2005. I took a class at MICA. I fell in love with the cases full of little letters, being able to put them together and print. And I started connecting with other local printers in the Baltimore, D.C. area. I did an internship at Pyramid Atlantic. And through that, I met a couple of local printers. One of them, Chris Manson, he introduced me to a friend of his who cast type. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And so he took me down to this guy's house. He was outside of Alexandria in Oxon Hill, Maryland. And his name was Jim Walzak. So I went down there one day with Chris and got to see Jim running this huge machine, big pot of molten metal, and it's spitting out characters one by one. So I thought that was pretty cool, but I didn't really know how amazing it was that he was actually doing this because I was just learning about printing as a whole. I didn't know that not many people did this. I never thought about, what's going to happen when I need new type? Where do I buy it from? And he's one of a handful of people that are still making new type. So I saw that, in 2008, 2009. Didn't really think about it much again for a while, but I kept in touch with Jim. I met a lot of other people. There were a few other casters in the DC area. Some of them are still around. There's Rich Hopkins out in West Virginia. There was Mike Anderson in Port Republic, who sadly passed away. But I kept, in the back of my head, I was like, oh, that's cool. I could go and see that again. Jim moved to Massachusetts in 2012 and just kind of kept printing and learning more. At this point, I was using the type I had, and I was doing some commercial work, so I was using plates, doing a lot of digital design. Then in 2019, I saw an ad for a summer workshop at the Wells Book Arts Institute, their summer classes up at Wells College in Aurora, New York, and they had a typecasting class with Michael and Winifred Bixler.
Oh, fun.
So I immediately was like, oh, that sounds cool. I get to learn how to do that, sign me up. So I got a small scholarship to be able to help me attend that. And I spent a week with Mike and Winnie Bixler up in Skaneateles, New York, up on the Finger Lakes. And little did I know, I was learning from like the country's preeminent typecasting company. They've been doing it since, I think, 1983 or so, which is when I was born. And I just instantly fell in love with it. They specialize in monotype, which is a system that will actually cast composed type. So Winnie was the keyboardist. What she would do is take your text that you wanted to print into a book. She would sit at the monotype keyboard and keyboard it out, and it would punch holes in a paper ribbon. And then Mike would take that paper ribbon to the monotype composition caster, feed the paper ribbon into the machine, put the right mat case with the size of type that you wanted to use in the machine, and it would spit out your text ready to print, made up of all the letters side by side in the right order. And you just put that on your press, you'd print it, and then you'd send that back to them and they would melt it down for the next job. So they were a big company. They did lots of books, and I had no idea that that was like such a huge industry back in the 80s, even until the 80s, like that late in the game.
Line by line?
It's actually letter by letter.
I mean,
yeah.
Right. But she would key in a single line and it would spit out the line, and then you would...
No, she would do the whole text. It'd be a big roll of paper.
Oh my God.
So there's all these little spools of punched paper lined up in there for jobs that they've done.
So wait, what is the punch paper? How does that work?
The machine actually has a tower on it with all these little pins controlled by air. And as the tape goes over them, the pins go into the holes and activate the placement of the mat case in the machine. So the machine has a mat case, which is a 15 by 15 grid of little brass squares, each of the letters stamped in them. And the paper tape tells the machine to move it to a particular place on the grid to cast a lowercase f. And then the next pin tells it to cast a lowercase g, and so on. So the tape is reading to the machine what it needs to cast. It's incredible. These were developed in the early 1900s.
My head is spinning. So wait.
It's like a really early punch tape.
Yeah. It's like a player piano.
It's like, yeah, like a player piano, like a jacquard loom. It's that same idea of having kind of a grid of coordinates. And then the machine casts everything right for you. You can just put it right on the press and print it.
So, I'm sorry. If only you could see my face, people. Furrowed brow. So when the punch thing happens and there's some molten situation underneath this thing that is creating the type right then and there.
Yeah, so there's a big pot of molten metal attached to the machine.
God.
There's a pump, and there's a piston that goes down into the pump, pushes the metal up into a little mold, and the letter comes down on top for the mold itself. It casts that letter, everything kind of disengages, and then it moves the mat case to the next letter, pumps the metal up into the mold. Very fast as well. These things work incredibly fast. I mean, they are just amazing machines.
Well, that's my other question. Like, is the metal soft enough that it's not, but it is molten?
It's molten. It's 700 degrees.
But it cools off really fast, like when they stick together?
No, so the amazing thing with the alloy, and this is part of what Gutenberg kind of discovered, was the alloy for the metal mix that cools very quickly, but it doesn't shrink. So as soon as it goes into the mold, it's solid almost instantly, and it can come out and you can cast the next letter. It's still hot, but it's not molten anymore.
Right. Okay. I'm no physicist or chemist.
Yeah, it's a magical mix of metal, and it cools very quickly. It's strong. It takes a good cast of the mold, so you get a lot of detail, but it doesn't shrink when it leaves the mold, so you get a true to size cast of that letter.
And we're talking like 11 points, 12 points, 13, 14.
Down to 3 points.
Oh, shoot. Jesus.
Yeah. 10, 12 were pretty common for composition, but I have seen a 3-point mold, and I have seen someone cast on a 4-point mold on video, and it was outrageous.
That is outrageous. I'm fascinated also by the fact that the machine is called a monotype, which of course in the other side of printmaking is a whole other thing.
Yes, it makes eBay searches quite difficult.
Exactly.
I think they called it monotype because as opposed to a linotype, which does a line of type, it does mono
Single
letter at a time.
Okay.
And the monotype system was developed by Tolbert Lanston in the very late 1800s, I think, very early 1900s. And then it branched out into the UK. And just a couple of years ago, the final kind of remainders of that shut down.
Wow.
So I actually purchased monotype mats from the monotype company in the UK a couple of years ago.
Whoa.
So they've just closed. And their machines were compatible. If you had bought a machine in 1912, they would still sell you parts for it in 1972.
That's the beauty of, as you say, like it's a form of communication that has been in existence for years and years and years and years and 500 years, right? Like it's nuts that it hasn't really changed.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of advances, but it's still kind of the same idea.
Right.
So I spent a week with the Bixlers learning how to cast. And by the end of that week, I think by the end of the first hour there, I was like, this is cool. I want to keep doing this. I need to learn how to do this again. And I made a great connection with Mike and made plans to come back the next summer as their assistant in 2020. Cue sad trombone.
Right.
So unfortunately, I wasn't able to go back and work with them the next summer. I kept thinking about it and I remembered Jim. So in 2021, I just emailed Jim. We'd kept in touch over the years, sending Christmas cards. And I just was
really
like,
nice
hey,
letterpress Christmas cards, I'm sure.
Yes, of course. Lino cuts, handset type, very beautiful. So I just emailed him and asked if he'd be willing to have me up there and he could teach me some things. And he said, sure, come on up. So in August of 2021, I drove up to Williamstown, Massachusetts, where he'd relocated his entire shop to. And I spent a week with him casting a font of 12-point Kennerly that I was going to use in a book project. And I kind of thought that was my goal. I wanted to cast this font of type to use in a book project so that I could have something new to work with. And the middle of the week that I was there, he's kind of like, oh, you want to make your own type, your own design? And I was like, what do you mean? Of course I do. Of course I would like to do that. Are you kidding? So I designed this little mushroom type, and he taught me how to use this engraving machine that he'd gotten from another typecaster. It was a little tabletop pantograph machine. And what it allows you to do is to take a larger size pattern and engrave it really small into a piece of brass. And then this piece of brass is your matrix that can be put into the casting machine. So I got to design my own border as two little pieces of mushrooms that fit together to make a border. And I got to cast that. And I was just utterly smitten with the process. It's so amazing that I could design, engrave, and then have this type that no one else in the world had. It never existed before that day. And just being able to do that on a whim was great.
I think I saw that you were selling the mushroom border type.
Yes.
The whole like scale, I don't understand.
That's something I'm still kind of working on for sure. So the first time I was there with Jim, I cast just enough for myself to kind of play around with.
Right.
I also learned a lot in casting it. He has two types of machines. We cast my mushroom on the Thompson caster, which is designed to just do single sorts. It can cast larger sorts, so up to 48 points. But the problem was that my mushroom, the design went off the edge of the type, so it would connect as a border. Because I didn't know any better that I couldn't do that on the Thompson. And what happened was when it came out, the two pieces are pushed together so tightly in the machine that the ends kind of smushed up. So I was able to print with them myself at home. I had to file the edges off of every single piece so that they line up, they connect to each other, which is something I still have to do, unfortunately. But I played around with it. I printed it. I loved it. I showed it to people online, and everybody immediately said, when can I buy some? So I planned my second trip up to Jim's, and we ended up casting the mushrooms again on the Sorts caster, which is a stripped-down version of the composition caster. So it's the same machine, but it doesn't have the paper tape system. It's designed to just cast one letter at a time, and you manually set what that one letter or design is, and it can cast a little larger as well. So I can cast up to 24 points on the Sorts caster machine. So I cast a couple of fonts and immediately sold them all and had to plan a third trip. I think the third time I went up, someone had asked if I had any snowflakes. I said, well, I can make some. So Jim and I designed some snowflake designs and engraved a couple of sizes of those, and I cast and sold those, and I just kind of snowballed from there. And now I think I have maybe 10 or 11 different designs that I'm casting and selling.
Oh my God. Now, if I say I want to buy a mushroom border for you, how many pieces of type do I get?
The sets that I'm making, I think the mushroom border has 40 of the side pieces. So it's actually like a little double square. It's called a double quad stretcher piece and then corner pieces. So you get 40 of the side stretcher pieces and 20 corner pieces.
Oh, okay.
So it's enough to do a border on like a 5x7 card.
Okay.
And most of the sets that I'm putting together are about that size. So you can do a nice little border on a card. I really like being able to cast massive quantities because then I can set a big solid area of a pattern. I've been getting really into designing pattern ornaments that repeat and rotate to kind of make a wallpaper effect. And then I can print, say, the cover of my typecasting newsletter that I publish. So it would be expensive to buy that many, but I can make as many as I want, which is really exciting to me because I can come home from gyms with 300 pounds of type.
Oh my God.
And just print these crazy, huge things with it. And then sell some, of course, to other people.
Well, but like how much is the alloy or the metal, whatever you call it, the supply? How much, like, what does that what does that cost?
I'm actually recycling type right now.
Okay.
So all of the metal that I'm using is recycled foundry type, some linotype slugs. There's a very specific way of doing it, and then there's the way Jim does it, in which he just dumps old type in the pot and lets it melt down, which is what I do. So anything that is old or worn down in your print shop, or any metal that's gotten a little bit oxidized and is not really safe to print with anymore, you can melt that down and make fresh new type with it.
Why is oxidized type? A, why is it oxidizing? And B, why is it unusable?
The lead oxide, so when the type metal itself is an alloy of lead, tin, and antimony, and if it gets like wet, if it's been sitting in a damp basement, the lead can oxidize out of that alloy, and that's what's the toxic part about it. And it makes the face pitted and unusable.
Oh, okay.
So we try to keep any of that out of our community print shops. If you see like a white powdery surface on the type, that means it's been oxidizing, and I will take it and I'll melt it down.
So the toxic lead part that has oxidized is you can just throw it in the pot and it'll poof, go away?
It doesn't go away. I have to safely dispose of it.
Sorry, I'm going to ask all the questions.
It floats to the top as the dross, and then it gets skimmed off. And then I will dispose of that with a metal recycler.
Jesus.
But you can recycle the type pretty indefinitely. You can keep kind of finding old type that's worn out and melting it down. And that's what I've been using to make my new type.
So do newspapers still have just blocks and blocks and blocks and lines and lines and lines of type hanging around?
Not anymore.
No.
I think most of the larger newspapers have gotten rid of that decades ago. I visited a shop in Western Maryland a few years ago that was a little family-run newspaper. I forget what they were called. They were out in Oakland, Maryland, and they were fourth generation was running the newspaper, but they'd switched to offset. And upstairs, all their letterpress stuff was just shoved in a back room. So I was able to get some metal from them that they weren't using anymore.
Huh.
So it's out there. There's old shops around, just looking for old type. I don't want to know what it costs new because
Right.
antimony is going to be very hard to get soon.
Really?
So I'm going to keep, it's coming from China, and now it's been declared a precious commodity or something.
Oh, no.
So I will just keep recycling old type whenever possible and making it into bright, shiny new type.
So if you have a case of, 14-point Times Roman or whatever, and you are finished with the project, you would just melt it down, and if you ever needed it again, you would redo the Times Roman?
Not necessarily. Generally, when you have a font like that, there's this difference between what's called foundry type and the monotype. So foundry type would have been purchased from, say, American Type Founders Company. You would have had their big, thick catalog. You could have ordered any typeface that you wanted. And it's a little bit harder alloy. It had a little more tin and antimony in it, so it would stand up longer. you would reuse that until it was just completely worn down, and then you would sell the metal back to the type foundry. If you had a monotype system in-house, if you were not doing the composition that you would remelt it every time, you could cast yourself a font of 18 Garamond and use it until it wore down. So generally, once you've gone through all the labor to cast a font of something, you're going to use it as much as possible. But if it does wear down or becomes damaged, you can always remelt it into something new.
Jesus.
But to cast the font of Kennerly that I did the first time I visited Jim, we cast probably about 60 or 70 pounds. It's a very full typecase. It's hard to pick up. But, that took 6 days.
Oh.
So it's not something that you really want to do on a whim if you're not doing composition.
I don't think anything with printmaking is undertaken on a whim,
Right. We have to be very intentional about everything.
Everything is steps and process and money and all that stuff. Time.
Yeah. But especially with a lot of the old foundry type, like the larger sizes, like 72, 90, 96 point type, nobody can make that anymore. So you want to be careful with the more rare faces, the larger sizes. We want to try to keep those in service, but they do get worn down and damaged and just don't print well anymore. But the small stuff, there are a limited number of people that can make some new things, but not all new things.
Okay. I assume that if I was going to order 18 Garamond from the American Who's Ink, there's a standard number of E's, I's, etc. It was standard.
Yeah, so they would have had a standard font scheme. So you would have gotten all the letters in proportion for setting English.
Okay.
And you could order a full jobbing font, which would basically fill a typecase, or a half-strength font or a quarter font, depending on how much you wanted to spend.
Wait a minute. You mean depending on the size of the project, you could order half the number of whatevers?
Yeah, if you just needed a small amount, you could order a quarter-strength font and get enough to set, say, a card or an invitation. Uh-huh. But if you were going to be printing a book, you might need to order like 6 jobbing fonts.
Okay.
So you would have enough to do the entire project at once.
So this is a question that I've always wondered about. If you are doing a book and, not like a book with some wood engravings and it's, poems or something, but like a book with text. Do you set every page before you print the entire thing, or do you do it sort of in batches?
Ideally, you would have it all set.
Really?
So this is what the Bixlers used to do, is they would set your entire book in composition type and truck it to you, and you would print it and then send it all back. I think a lot of people who are still working and smaller shops may have had to do it kind of in sections, but you would definitely try to print, an entire signature on a larger page. You'd have a couple pages set up. Maybe you could have enough type to print 4 signatures at a time, and then you would have to take it apart and either melt it or reset it. So it's definitely a process for larger and larger projects like that.
I'm sure you took also graphic design when you were in school. I took some at some point, and this whole like laying out a signature. I always had this like little piece of paper folded up with 1, 2, 3, 4. It was really confusing. Oh, there's so much to it. It's nuts. How? Okay, what's your favorite thing to make? The type. The type.
Yeah, I really do like making the type. It's such a cool process, just from getting to design from that first idea, refining the idea, and then engraving the actual matrix. I really like that process because it's so analog and hands-on. And I like casting. I just like listening to the machine. I like it when the machine works. Don't like it as much when the machine breaks, which is too frequent, but we've always gotten through it. You learn a lot about fixing machines when you're doing typecasting.
I think any printer who has a shop in their, circle has to learn how to fix things, right? Like every printer I've talked to is like, oh yeah, we rebuilt this, or I'm like, what?
Yeah, definitely. Any sort of press, you're always fixing, adjusting, changing something on there. And I actually got into fixing presses before I got into typecasting. I learned a lot of really in-depth Vandercook maintenance, which is the big cylinder printing presses that we learned on at MICA. I took a workshop with a guy who goes around and repairs those. Really got into it, and I do some press repair for schools and people on the side.
Oh, do you?
And then I got into typecasting. I was like, oh, well, I can figure out how to fix this. I know how to fix Vandercooks. Like, this is only a little bit more complicated. Not true. It's a lot more complicated.
Yeah. I have a feeling, and I find this fascinating, that the letterpress world is different, seems to have its own universe that's very adjacent to and next to and aligned with the printmaking sort of, fine arty part. And I feel like you have all of your own mechanics and all your own inks and your own paper, and you're like, it's such a funny division that I find. So it's a false hierarchy, really.
Yeah, it is a very tight knit, different community than the fine press world. Like etching, all the etchers are together, all the screen printers, but then all the letterpress people were very tight. We all know each other. We know how to help each other out. We do have like our preferred suppliers and events to go to, but it's been a really great community. And from the start, when I met a lot of the local printers, like it was just very welcoming. Everyone was really happy to share processes, techniques, like hoards that they found. They were like, hey, you need a press. We're going to go clean out this print shop in DC. So everybody was really helpful. And I hadn't really experienced that before. So it was great to find such a tight-knit community of people who wanted to help each other out, but also had this like same intense niche interest. It's just a wonderful group of people.
I feel like it's even tighter than the fine printing end.
It might be. We're not as competitive with each other,
interesting.
I think. I mean, we're all trying to hustle and do our own businesses, but we're also really there for each other. Like it's just fabulous.
Huh. I went once, I think on your recommendation, there was a printers fair up in, was it Lancaster?
Oh, yeah, the Lancaster Fair.
Yeah. And I had no idea what to expect. I mean, I think it was my first dip my toe into the letterpress sort of circle and world. And I was like, wow, there's all these old guys sitting there fixing everything. I'm like, this is a different world.
It's such an interesting dichotomy because there is the old guard of old printers, old guys who've been printing all their lives or took it up as a hobby and have had a press in their garage since 1973. And then there's all the new, younger people, a lot of young women. And I think at the beginning when, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a little more tension with these old guys being like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. What do you want to press for? You don't, you're going to make cards. And there was a support group started called Ladies of Letterpress. Oh. In reaction to some of that, because there were some women who were, learning and running successful businesses who would still get these old grumpy guys being like, rah, what are you doing? And so the Ladies of Letterpress came together to really help all the young women. But then the old guys were like, well, wait, we're going to need somebody to buy our stuff when we're dead. Like, maybe we should help you. So then they really kind of started helping out and connecting people and, teaching us how to use these old machines. And it's a great mix of like old dudes and young ladies, and it's great.
That's funny. I do feel like it's mostly women who are amongst the young guard. Don't take this wrong, people, it feels sometimes like it's cast in the sort of women's craft moment. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which I find completely unfair. And especially because it's been for so long connected to the commercial with the old dudes. Like, yeah. What do you mean? How is it? It's just sort of suddenly flipped into this kind of,
I think some of that is just the increased visibility. A lot of it got connected to the wedding invitations, the stationery market. You get all these cutesy little things that are definitely more feminine. And the people who are making those and having a really successful time are the women who are connected with that. But at the same time, there's a lot of really down to the craft, like hardworking people behind the scenes still doing the commercial work, like advertising posters, still working with type, still running the huge Mealy Pony press that runs 32 by 46 or something. So there's this interesting mix of people. And I think some of the more visible people who were able to kind of get their products out there are more on like that feminine crafty side, but they're still doing printing. They're still doing great work and they're still part of our community. So it's just an interesting mix of that kind of more commercial crafty side and then, old school music posters and just dirty, greasy, grungy work that people are doing.
Yeah. I feel like the young dudes are doing like the screen printing music posters as opposed to the letterpress music posters.
There's a few doing the letterpress.
It's funny.
They're just not on Instagram as much, I think.
Right. In between your business ventures of trying to make a living, as you know, we all know, there's no way to make a huge fortune in this business.
No.
It's all for the love of it. Do you find time for your own creative output?
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to do more work with my own type now. I've been running my business for almost 20 years. It's been 17 years, I think. I recently just had my 10-year anniversary of leaving my full-time job and doing Bowerbox Press as my full-time. So that's been exciting. But I'll sell my own artwork through my business. So all the cards, the calendars that I do is my personal artwork. So I have that outlet. But I'm also trying to now focus on the type that I've been making. I've been so busy making it and selling it to people that I haven't really printed a lot with it. So I've been making some small artist books that are focusing on my type that I've made and setting that in interesting ways. That's kind of the future project, is like actually using my own type and making something out of it that might not be super commercially viable. I don't know if people are going to buy a lot of that, but it's something that I want to do and explore. So I'm finding more time to do that.
Do you take commissions for type orders and stuff?
I've done a couple custom projects for people. I'm still very much learning the process of engraving and getting a good, successful cast. Not everything works out exactly the way I want it to. Things go wrong all the time. And I also just have no idea how to charge because it takes so much time to get everything set up. And I'm using recycled metal. It's just very hard to figure out a good cost for that to make it worth my time, but still have someone be able to afford it. But I've done a couple custom projects for Jen Farrell of Star Shaped Press in Chicago. She does this little print club. She prints postcards every month. And if you've been in print club for a year, you get a type pie prize. And I've designed some type for her that's been sent out as that prize. So this past year, we did little envelopes with stars on them that were really cute.
Oh, nice.
So she designed them. I engraved and cast the type, and then she distributed it to her print club members. So I've done some custom projects for friends, but I'm not quite ready to put myself out there as like a type designer for hire. I need to get a little bit more established first.
Right.
I'm also limited in when I can cast type because Jim is in Massachusetts and all of the typecasting stuff is still in Massachusetts. Someday I will have that set up here. I don't know when yet, but that's the plan, is that Jim's stuff will pass to me.
Oh, nice.
And I'll continue his legacy.
Oh, good. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And then you can teach the next people.
Yes, because I will need someone to take it over from me when I am old.
That's always the thing, like what the legacy is and what the plan is, the succession plan. Oh, so hard.
Yeah, that's been a problem for the typecasting community.
For sure. We went to Orion Press, or Arian, depending on who you are and what you think the pronunciation should be. It was, I don't know, probably 8-9 years ago. And they did, I think they poured some type for us while we were there. They demoed for us.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. And are they the only art book producers at this point?
They're probably the biggest operation. So they actually just moved to a new space in San Francisco, and the entire type foundry, plus all the bookbinding and printing equipment, moved. They are the kind of inheritors of M&H Type, which was a pretty big foundry in the US up until probably the 70s, 80s. So that's how they have that capacity to cast all the type for, like, say, Moby Dick. They can cast all the type and print it there. They used to supply people. They would take custom orders, but I think they've kind of gotten out of that. They're still selling some back stock, but they are focusing more on the book printing.
Right.
So there's smaller people, but I think they're probably the largest press with the combined foundry, still operational.
Yeah, so I was prepping for today. I poked around on their website for 2 seconds, and I think they're producing 3 editions a year, 3 books a year.
Wow.
Which sounds like not very much, but a whole lot at the very same time.
Sounds like a lot to me. That's a big undertaking.
Yeah. I mean, they must have, well, I'm sure they bring people in for, specific runs of time and stuff. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Super cool, though. I mean, it was really fun wandering around there. Just walking around, your eyes were big as, saucers. Like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah. I got to visit them probably about 10 years ago, and it was just amazing.
Yeah.
It was before I was into typecasting, of course, but I've reconnected with Brian from there. So
oh, good.
They're doing well.
I know.
still viable as a foundry and a book
Exactly.
publisher. And
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing that they've been able to keep that up.
I know. I was worried when Andrew Hoyam retired. I was like, uh-oh. But God love him.
Nope, they're still gone strong.
Yeah, that's great. All right. What are your best tips and tricks for people?
Well, for printing in general, I would say if you are trying to get the best possible print, you want to use new type, because a lot of people, a lot of community print shops, a lot of school shops, the type that we have is old and worn down. And no matter what you do with inking, impression, packing, you're going to not get a good print just because the type itself is worn down. So I've really noticed a difference in printing my own little books and even specimens with brand new type. It just looks 1,000 times better.
Oh, wow.
So if you're really trying to get a professional looking book with text printed, you want to use new type when you can.
Huh.
And there are still a couple of places that you can buy it new. There's Skyline Type Foundry in Arizona, and there's Pat Ray out in California, and Swamp Press in Massachusetts. They're all casting fonts of type. So you could get your 12-point Garamond, you could get decorative borders from Sky. So there's a few places to still get that new type, but there's nothing else like printing with brand new type fresh off the caster.
Huh. Are there places in Europe that are they big into letterpress over there?
Well, they're big into printing, but unfortunately, I don't know that there are any active foundries. The one in Germany, forget what it was called, but Rainier Gerstenberg ran it, and that was just recently shut down.
Oh, gosh.
So there are some private typecasters in the UK and Europe, but I don't know that there are any big operational foundries anymore.
Wow.
It's all kind of been switched over to offset and digital, just like here.
Right, of course. Oh, it's so sad. On this new type thing, when you're using older type and some letters are worn down, is it that the letter form is uniformly shorter than everything else, or is there corners that wear down, or what happens to it?
Both can happen. What happens a lot of times is it'll get rounded. So where you would have had crisp 90-degree angles on like the bottom of a T or something, that'll get rounded over.
Okay.
Just from the wear from the paper hitting it so many times.
So you're still getting the letters, but they just sort of aren't crisp.
Yeah, they're not as crisp.
Okay.
They'll be kind of fuzzy. And it is possible that like your entire type would be a little bit lower. Sometimes you can, if you're really anal, you can take a little piece of tape and put it underneath and try to bring a letter up, but it's still not going to be as crisp and clean an impression as a brand new piece of type.
Right. Oh my God.
And I mean, this is one reason that a lot of people have switched over to printing front plates, is because you get a new plate with crisp type, you get that beautiful letter form, the really like crisp serifs and everything that you wouldn't get if you were using an old font of type. But there's just something different about the process, I think. You're setting the type by hand. You're really taking time with the text rather than just slapping down a plastic plate. And either is fine for printing. It's just I would rather do it from handset type. I really like the whole analog process of doing everything myself.
Can you tell in the finished product which it is?
I think the only way you'd be able to tell is if you could see like damage on the different type letters. Like if you were looking at something that was printed from type, you might notice like, oh, the serif on that F broke off. Whereas the polymer plate, everything would be super perfect. You could get probably a pretty identical impression from either if you were really careful with your packing. So it would be really hard to tell. But there's just something about the type that's a little more magical.
Sure. Yes, I agree with you. How long does it take for the type to wear down?
I think it really depends on what you're doing with it. If you're printing with really hard packing on a smooth coated paper, it's going to last for a while. If you're trying to print on a rougher, like a handmade paper, even if it's dampened, the fibers are a little bit more coarse and they're going to be pressing against the metal harder in different areas. So it really depends on what you're printing. But I think the foundry type, I mean, they advertise it as good for thousands or millions of impressions.
Okay.
So it does take some time to wear it down, even with careful printing, but you could also at the same time damage a piece of type in one impression by running a piece of paper too thick through it. Or if there was an inclusion, like I've seen some people that print beautiful wedding invitations on paper with seeds in it. You can't do that with type because that seed could line up with a letter and just completely smash it. So that's an instance where you would want to use a plate.
Gotcha.
For sure.
And do the polymer plates wear down?
They're pretty indestructible.
Yeah.
They do degrade over time. Like if you just leave them sitting in a drawer, like I have some that have kind of curled up after years, but I've printed thousands of impressions from them with no problem.
Okay. So if I were to come to Bowerbox and say, I'd like some letterpress business cards, A, how long does it take to do, assuming you have time? And B, how much does it cost for a box of 1,000?
It depends on the project. I don't really have set prices because, again, I'm not doing a big volume of commercial stuff, but I will charge based on the type of paper you want. So if it's like a really thick cotton paper, if it's something colored and fancy or more expensive, that'll change the cost. And for commercial work, I'm generally using plates for that because it allows me to design on Illustrator or InDesign with infinite number of fonts.
And changes.
Yes, infinite changes. So I prefer to design digitally for custom work, then I'll have a plate made, and then I can give you that beautiful impression in the thick cotton paper. That's probably what you're looking for if you want letterpress business cards.
Right.
Generally, if I'm doing a custom project for someone, once the design is nailed down, it takes me about 2 weeks to turn something around from ordering the plate, getting the paper in stock, and then getting it on press and printing.
Okay. Who are you getting paper from?
I've been getting a lot of paper from French paper. Everything's recycled from them. They use wind power. But for the cotton stocks, I've been using Flurry paper from Boxcar Press. They make the plates, and then they also started making their own paper that works really well with the plates.
Oh, wow.
So it's a good, all kind of self-contained business.
Huh. So, wow, a manufacturer of paper specific for that kind of printing. Mm-hmm. Wow.
It's 100% cotton. They developed it based on their custom printing. But a lot of the mills have closed. So like you can't get Crane's Lettra anymore. It's been harder and harder to find a lot of the other cotton papers. But Flurry has been pretty reliably in stock. And it gives you that really nice impression too. You get a good bite on it.
Right. They know what you want.
They know what we want.
Do you prefer the deep bite, the deep emboss, or are you sort of old school? Like that really shouldn't be like that.
It depends on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I like both. I like handing out a business card on really thick paper and seeing people like try to peel it apart because they think they've got 3 cards and then they'll realize, oh, this is 1 card. It's really nice. I love that. But I also love just the perfectly, just barely embossed print of new type on smooth paper.
Nice.
So it really depends what kind of project I'm working on.
How many presses do you own now?
I think the current count is 12 in various stages of repair.
You have an addiction problem.
Yes. If you get into letterpress printing, you will soon find out that there is no end to the amount of things you can have. I started collecting presses the semester after I graduated from college. I dragged home a Colts Armory press, which weighs about 1,800 pounds. Still in my mother's basement.
Oh.
But now at my shop at my house, I mainly work on a Vandercook Universal 1, which is a big cylinder press. And then I have a C&P platen press that I run coasters and business cards on. I have another Colts Armory that I'm in the process of restoring. I have some small presses that I can take around to shows and explain it to people. I just love the machinery. A lot of this is just because I love the machines. They're just so elegantly designed. They still work after 150 years. Like, they're just impressive pieces of technology. And I love being able to work on them and fix them and bring them back to life. And then I just love being able to kind of save all this stuff, too. A big part of why I'm interested in this is keeping this history alive. So I will try to save as much stuff as possible, even if it ends up looking like I'm just hoarding it. I really want to keep it safe so that it can be used. Yeah. And then eventually the next generation can use it too.
Right. A couple of episodes ago, I talked with Amelia Fontanelle from the Cary Library up at RIT, who I think the day that we were interviewing, you were about to come up and give a talk.
Yes, that was right before the APA conference, I think.
Yeah, it was really, I mean, so we have talked letterpress on the pod, but not quite as technically as with you, which was really fun. Mm-hmm. But she was describing the William Morris press. I was like, what? Like, that was so astonishing to me that somebody could acquire such a thing, you know?
I got to print on
it. Oh
that.
My God, tell us.
When they first acquired it, it's the Kelmscott Gowdy press. So William Morris printed on it, and then Frederick Gowdy bought it and printed on it. And RIT acquired it, and the American Printing History Association had a conference in Rochester, I think in 2015. And part of the conference was everybody got to pull a print on that press. So I have printed on the Kelmscott-Gowdy press, and it's very exciting.
Gosh, we're such nerds.
It's great. I love it. I love being a big nerd.
I know. Yeah, boy, talk about an interesting collection. It's fascinating. Everybody needs to go take a trip up to the Carey Library.
Yeah, they have an amazing collection. I was up there recently for the conference, and Amelia had pulled out Steve Sax's Pinmark collection. So all of the different foundries that made type, they would have a different mark on the machine that makes the type called a pin. They would engrave like their name or a little symbol, and it would cast into the body of the type so you could tell who made that piece of type.
Oh.
And Steve Sachs, who was a printer and collector, he found as many different ones as possible and then cataloged them all. So they had the Pinmark collection out, and I got to look at that, which was amazing.
Wow. That's deep nerddom there.
Yes.
But it's just like the print curators. I mean, we have volumes and volumes of collector's marks and, all that stuff, or chops and stuff. Although there needs to be a better chop directory, honestly, for the print chops. Sometimes I'm like, well, I've seen it, but I have no idea. 3 hands or whatever it is, like, oh, shoot, what is that one? Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. So when you went to MICA, did you have any idea this is where you'd end up?
I had no idea. I think when I first went to MICA, I thought I was going to be a painter because that's what I did in high school. Got to MICA, saw that everybody was better at painting than me. I started taking some printmaking classes and immediately loved printmaking. But the funny thing is I hated lino cuts at first. When I first did them in school, I was like, oh, all this thinking backwards, I don't like it. And then I came back my very last semester for the letterpress course and just fell in love with it instantly. And then I was learning about doing lino cuts on the Vandercook. And I was like, wait, you mean the press will print this for me? So I completely did a 180 on how I felt about lino cuts and woodcuts. And that's what a lot of my personal imagery is now, is woodcuts.
Right.
So just being able to print them on the letterpress somehow made it a lot more attractive to me.
Did you take history of prints with True?
I didn't.
Oh.
I had True for screen printing.
Whoa.
I think that was my first class, my first printmaking class was screen printing with True.
Oh my God.
But then I did sneak into a history of prints class at a field trip to the BMA with you.
Right.
But that was after I was out of school.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. I was like, I feel like I saw you in our classroom.
I snuck in a couple of times.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it was, I feel like there's these moments when you're in college where things just flip and it changes your entire life. And it's like this, the magic, the magic moment is crazy. It's so great.
Yeah. And I didn't get that until my last semester. So I think about how close I was to just not ever taking that course and not learning about all this.
Wait, what did you end up majoring in?
I was a general fine arts major.
Okay.
Yep. I did a printmaking concentration though.
Okay.
So I had some more printmaking, but mostly I was doing like etchings. I did lithography with John Sparks, and I liked that, but it just wasn't as magical as the letterpress was.
John Sparks was legendary. I don't think I ever met him, actually.
Oh, he was great.
Yeah.
He would go have lunch at Mount Royal Tavern and come back. And the rest of class would be, you're on your own.
I'm going to take a nap.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
No, I learned a lot from him, though. It's the old people that have been doing this for so long that just have so much knowledge. And I think a lot of college-age people particularly don't realize that. Like, I've been meeting so many old printers and just realizing you just have to talk to them about stuff. They have so much knowledge to impart. And it may not be knowledge that you need right now, but it could really come in handy later.
I have to agree. So when I left the museum, I was 50. Let's see, I'm 60 now. So I was 53 maybe. And I never found a job because I was of a certain age and I was white and straight and all of the things you weren't supposed to be at that point. But at the same time, there were so many of us that had been pushed out or moved on or whatever. And like, what do you do with the people in their mid 50s who have all, like, you're right at the top of your power in knowledge and all that stuff. And what the hell do you do with people like us? Like, and we all just leave and never work in a museum again or whatever. Like, it's such a weird anti-aging bias thing. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, those are the people that have all the information that everybody else needs.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I find that if I sometimes when I interview somebody and I have done less preparation than I probably should have, I'll hear them somewhere else on a different pod or something. I'm like, I didn't know that. Why didn't they say something about that? But if you don't ask them about it, they won't remember that their skill set in that area is special, or, that they have something to impart, and they just, gloss over it or whatever. It's like,
Yeah. That's something that is an issue in typecasting too. I mean, so many people who are the typecasters, like Jim's 92. My friend Rich in West Virginia is 86, and there aren't that many people under 50. Like there's me and maybe 5 or 6 other people in the US who are interested but not actively casting. So there's a very, very limited number of people who are coming up to learn. And I'm really scared that like all this knowledge is going to be lost. Like Mike Bixler passed away last year quite suddenly, and all of his immense knowledge and practice and troubleshooting and just history is gone. And I actually took over the publication of the American Typecasting Fellowship newsletter last year.
Wow.
So this was a publication that Rich Hopkins started, I think, in 1978 when he was 41. He published it himself, entirely composition cast metal type, printed on a letterpress, published about once a year for his group of 250 nerds who are into typecasting. And there's so much information in that newsletter. And we've been working really hard to get all of those copies digitized so that everything is available. It's not going to be lost if the newsletter copies are gone. And he's been saying for the last 10 years that he needed someone to take it over, and no one stepped up. So last year I decided that I was going to step up and take that over. So at 41, I took over publishing this newsletter, and issue 47 is at the printers right now.
Wow.
I am not composition casting and letterpress printing all of it myself, because I am not a retired man with all the time in the world. But we're collecting new articles from people and just making sure that this newsletter continues to collect that information in print form so that it doesn't get lost when these people pass away.
Right. And when technology doesn't keep up.
Yes. And when you can't read that scanned JPEG anymore.
Exactly. Paper is a good thing, people.
Yeah.
That's
long live print.
Exactly. That's amazing, though, that you're publishing that on your own. My God.
Yeah, I have 2 people helping me from the Printing Stewards group, which I'm on the board of. So they're helping me edit Fritz and Sierra. And the Printing Stewards is a group that I joined last year. They're a nonprofit that formed to steward the collection of one typecaster out in Ohio, whose name was Greg Walters. He single-handedly saved the American Type Founders stuff. Like there was an auction in 93 when ATF closed. They were casting type and selling it up until 1992, which is incredible. But then they finally went bankrupt. They auctioned off all of the casting machines, all of the matrices that made the individual characters and the ornaments. And Greg Walters bought, I think, 12 of the casting machines, thousands of matrices, an engraving machine. And he cast type. He set it all up in Ohio and was casting type with some of this equipment. And sadly, he very suddenly passed away in 2021. So this group was formed as a nonprofit to take care of his collection. It was donated to the nonprofit by his family. And now we're in charge of a pole barn in Ohio that's stuffed full of casting equipment that Fritz and another board member, Jody, have only used 2 or 3 times with Greg. So we had to step back because we didn't get all of Greg's knowledge before he died.
Right.
But we're hoping that we can kind of restore some of these machines and at least keep that history going.
Is that something, I mean, I know it's its own nonprofit now, but is that something that a place like RIT could absorb?
I don't know. It is a nonprofit, so we have donations from people to pay for the upkeep of the building. So we own the building. I don't know how that would work, and I don't honestly know that any traditional institution would want to take on these machines, which are clearly not OSHA approved, because they'll shoot a pound of molten metal straight at your face if you do it wrong.
God. Jesus.
So I think this is something that's going to have to stay a little separate entity. But the goal that Greg had before he died, and now our goal, is to get these machines up and running and then have enough of an income that we can actually pay somebody to be a typecaster again and have someone casting type from this amazing collection of ATF matrices.
For sale.
Yeah. And also just to keep it, just keep that little bit of American typecasting history alive.
Amazing.
We'd love to be able to pay a printer to use that type, and the typecaster could have apprentices and continue teaching this stuff so it doesn't get lost after we're gone. So there's so much to do, and so few people who, A, even know about it, B, are slightly interested, and C, are willing to step up to a machine with a giant pot of metal that's 700 degrees. So it's a very limited field of people we're working with, but we're hoping to get that to a broader audience.
It feels like having it be part of some school printmaking discipline department or whatever is the way to interest, just like letterpress did back in the 90s or whatever it was. Like, if people don't know how cool it is and how it works or whatever, like you'll never. Oh gosh,
I don't know. A lot of my old guys have rubbed off on me, and they don't trust institutions and museums.
Oh, I see.
We have some personal experience with this because within the last couple of years, the Smithsonian had a large collection of matrices that they had bought from ATF. They were sitting in a warehouse in Suitland that had been closed for lead because they took a piece of lead and tested it for lead and said, shut this down.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
It sat there for 20 years. And my mentor, Jim, and one of my other mentors, Stan Nelson, had been working on cataloging and moving that collection into the museum when it just got shut down. So these priceless matrices have been sitting there for 20 years. And the new leadership of the museum said, we're redeveloping that site, get rid of it. And luckily it found a new home at the International Printing Museum out in California. But I was part of the team that went into the warehouse, palleted everything up, wrapped it up, shipped literally 10 tons of brass out to California. But if it hadn't been able to go to that museum, they would have thrown it away.
Oy.
So as far as institutions go, it's not necessarily totally safe.
No.
And I think schools in particular, it's important to be safe. You want your students to be safe. And
it's
there is
just
some
too
concern
much.
about lead.
Sure.
The type itself is not dangerous. As long as you don't eat it, it's not going to hurt you. But the casting machinery is, like I said, it's not OSHA approved. And I think it would be pretty hard to actually run any of that kind of in a school or institution setting, just with safety issues and environmental issues.
Okay.
It's a whole nother can of worms.
Field trips. We need field trips, people.
Field trips. Yeah. And that's why this nonprofit, the Printing Stewards, was set up, was so there is kind of a support system for that collection that isn't reliant on an institution that could change its mind with the next new director.
I'm surprised at the Smithsonian. Deaccessioning is no small task. It's a big effing deal.
Yeah, I think this was a big deal. They had about half of the collection had been... Actually, I think what left was not actually ever accessioned.
Oh.
It had been purchased, but it hadn't been sorted and officially brought into the museum collection.
Oh, I see.
So they still have a big collection of the ATF mats, but this particular chunk was still in storage and hadn't been brought into museum proper.
Right. It was on deposit, as they say.
Yes.
Long-term
So
loan.
now it's out in California at the International Printing Museum.
Where's that?
It's in LA, outside of LA. But we're hoping that the Printing Stewards, as we have the machines that can actually cast these, will be able to borrow some of those mats from that museum because they're more interested in actually using materials instead of just having them sit on a shelf. Right. So hopefully someday we'll be able to access some of those and cast some new type from them.
Wow. There's a lot going on with you.
Yeah. A lot going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. But that's awesome. I mean, I feel like it's really important to spread the word about this facet of the world that we all love so much. And I mean, it's just like a whole other rabbit hole to go down, you know?
Yeah, I mean, for letterpress, you can't print traditional letterpress if you don't have the type.
Right.
So the more people who know about how it's made, the better.
Right. Exactly. Oh, gosh. All right. Well, is there anything coming up that we should talk about before I let you go?
I'm just going to keep casting type.
Okay.
I have a couple holiday shows. If people want to come buy some type, they can find me at some Baltimore area holiday shows.
Okay. This will probably come out after that.
Okay.
But you do shows pretty fairly. I mean, you can find your show schedule on your website, I assume.
Yeah, and I sell my type on my website. So if anybody wants to print with brand new ornamental borders designed by me, you can find them on my website.
That's fun. That's super cool. Did you design your own chop for your type?
I don't have a pin mark.
Pin mark, that's what the word is.
Yeah, the machine that I'm using doesn't do that on the type. Maybe someday.
Huh. That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be fun to have.
Yeah. All right. Well, Val, thank you for coming on Platemark today. It's been a delight to see you again because it's been a while. And to talk this is just fascinating to me. I don't know why. I am no mechanic. I can't take something apart because I'll never get it back together. But I just find it fascinating, the ins and outs of how all this stuff works. Like there's so many pieces and parts, and when it all comes together, it's the most beautiful thing ever.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's intricate. It's detail oriented, and that's why I love it.
Right. Oh, it's nutso. All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's always inspiring to talk to someone like Val, who isn't just using the tools, but is actually preserving the machinery and the knowledge required to keep this medium moving forward. If you haven't seen the work coming out of Bowerbox Press, do yourself a favor and check out the show notes for links to her website and Instagram. You can even purchase some of the ornaments and type she mentioned in today's episode. As always, you can find images of the works we discussed and more information about the print ecosystem at platemarkpodcast.com. If you're enjoying these conversations, the best way to support us is to tell a friend or leave a rating at Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps other people find the show. As always, I need to thank my team, Dan Fury of Extension Audio, for being my sound guy. Thanks for all you're doing for me, Dan. I appreciate it. A thank you to Uncle Michael Diamond for the use of his original music, and a thank you to Skip Barnhart and Lee Turner for sending me sounds that make up the intro and outro of each episode. And lastly, a thank you to SGCI for sponsoring this episode. Head over to the website, platemarkpodcast.com, and do me a favor. Hit the support and donate button and help us keep the lights on. Until next time, I'm Ann Shafer, and this is Platemark.